Hello and welcome back to the When You're podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're watching Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa. I don't like to classify it as like Rocky 6 or anything. It's just Rocky Balboa. It's just like Balboa, whatever it's called. And the final two movies in the official Rocky saga, I guess. But I want to talk about Rocky 5 real quick. Is it my favorite of the franchise? No. Is it good? I mean, compared to the others, it's not on my top, it's definitely not on my top 3, but it's there. It's definitely there. And I think that what the theme is, or what they're trying to convey through the story, is that, even when you're down at the bottom again, you can still live a good life. You can still be a good father, a good parent. You can still be a good husband. You can still live a good life, even though you're not at the top anymore, which is really sad. I mean, I feel like that whole situation should have been avoided. It could have been avoided, but obviously they needed the downward spiral to show him that he's not just fighting in the ring anymore. He's winning and fighting life. And it comes with a lot of problems and complications, but it's all about how you react to it. It's all about what you do in the face of adversity. And after Rocky 4, he's really hurt. He's crippled. I'm not going to say that he's crippled. I'm going to say he's more so, he's just in this really terrible spot where it's like you're super injured and it's like you can either keep going or accept that you have no money, accept that you're nowhere, accept that you got scammed, that you made some bad, financial moves, and that they robbed you of all of your hard-earned money, which is such a waste. And I feel like there should have been more opportunities, right? Other than just boxing. He had sponsorships. He had like a bunch of magazines and brand deals. I feel like it would have been so much different in today's world. There's so much more you can do. But obviously back then it was like, just keep up the fights. But his health was in question. It was more so like, can he handle another fight? Does he even want to fight anymore? And it became this whole problem about athleticism and getting older and like what happens when, your job takes its toll on you. And for him, it really damaged him. It messed him up bad. And it's painful to see him go down to the bottom. And not only him, his son, his whole family gets back down at the bottom. And it's painful and it's cruel to watch. And, every piece of me is kind of like hoping that he's going to get out of it, right? He's always going to come out on top. And in the end, it's just, it ends up being just a street brawl between him and his, apprentice, the guy he was training. And it just felt like it definitely felt like a big punch to the face. I felt like that was for me at least, I wasn't too happy with Rocky being back at the bottom in Philadelphia. Not that Philadelphia is bad. It's just, you work so hard to get somewhere else in your life, and it just feels like it all crumbles beneath your feet. But I get it. I understand what they're doing. It's, it's life. That's what life does, and we'll see where it takes him from there. But Rocky 5 is really about just what happens when you have everything you've ever wanted and you still end up back at the bottom. You can either risk your own health or you can just take the cards that life has handed you and make do with what you can. And I feel like, obviously his wife, Adrian, was very, very protective. She wants Rocky to be Rocky. She doesn't want him to be anything else. I just feel like he should have taken a few fights. That's just me. I'm sorry. Screw the health. I've seen football players play with broken bones and sprained wrists and ankles and all that stuff. It's just like you got to tough through the pain just a little bit longer just to make it through. I say he easily could have taken 3 more fights and he could have been back on top again. Maybe a couple of deals here and there. But obviously that's not the route they chose. That's not the route they went. And At the end of it all, he wins. He beats up his protege and in the streets, and he gets a hometown victory, which is not that good, but it happened. It happened, and you know what? It's good to see him be loved and accepted by the people, I guess, around him. You know, he's gonna live a pretty good life, but the big reason I love this movie, I'm not gonna say like the movie as a whole is my favorite, but it has some pretty damn good moments. And the one moment that sticks out in particularly, the one moment in the whole movie that matters the most out of everything in the world, is when Rocky goes back to Mickey's gym. It's all empty and deserted, and he doesn't know, what's going on, what he's doing, and whatnot. He's kind of reminiscing on his life, and he's puts on an old glove he finds on the floor, and he just goes like, slip the jab, slip the jab. And then he gets a flashback to a beautiful moment when he was about to fight Apollo. I don't know if it was the first time or second time, but he was about to fight Apollo. And Mickey gives a speech of a lifetime. It was just, I'm telling you right now, if you go on YouTube and you look up that one scene with Mickey, it's so beautiful. It brings tears to the eyes. And the one part that just like sticks out in my brain so much and so often is that speech. The emotion behind it, the feeling, the passion built up after all of that time they've spent together, before his death, before they were anything, before they were on top, before they cared about the title or beating Clubber Lang or doing any of that stuff, before he was a 10-time world champion or whatever, before he was praised and loved by so many. It was just him and Mickey in the gym, just trying to get somewhere great. And it was that bond, that love between the two of them that was so beautiful and so pure. And when I watch that scene, it just makes me think of my life. It makes me think like how many people are around you when you're building something for yourself. How many people are actually there who motivate you, who care about you, who lift you up and give you strength. And in that moment, Mickey isn't just talking about boxing anymore. He's just like, when he's gone, Rocky's going to be able to take care of himself, not just fighting, not just putting gloves on and getting into a ring, but outside of it, understanding the business, understanding the people that are going to come after you and ruin you. You can't give into that. And I listen whenever I need a good pep talk, whenever I feel a little bit down, whenever I feel like I can't go on or things suck. I listen to that. I definitely listen to that speech, that moment. And it brings me it gives me a lot of strength. And it tells me that seeing Rocky go from having everything to nothing, and me who has nothing, it just kind of makes it feel like, well, I can always work my way up. It's always possible. There's that little bit of hope in there. You know what I'm saying? But him, it's like, well, you were at the bottom before. You know what it's like. Then you get to the highest of highs, but then you're back at the bottom again. It's nothing you can't overcome. It's nothing you haven't dealt with before. But that speech means everything to Rocky, and it's so important to him and his character. And I think it's just, without a doubt, the best scene in the whole movie. It really puts a smile on your face. It brings tears to the eyes, and it makes you and it gives you comfort, even in the lowest of times. And then we move on a few years later. Rocky has now outlived Adrian. He has now outlived, I think, no, Paulie's still around. Paulie's still there. But he's lived a long life. And his son and him have kind of grown apart. The damage that has been done over... I'm not even going to say damage. It's just more so it's like the life that they have led is so different. It's so vastly different than everybody else's. And when you're a son of a great man, how do you, it kind of deals with how do you live up to that, right? When somebody is famous, when somebody's strong and has a great legacy, has a great reputation as being a boxer, and then you just like, you don't really take to it. You want to become your own person. You want to become something else, but the people only see one thing for you. You can't build or become anything on your own. It's always in somebody else's life, in somebody else's quote-unquote shadow that they talk about in the film. But Rocky still feels like he has something inside of him, something deep within him. And I feel like it's kind of reminiscent of what Apollo was talking about in Rocky IV. He's a warrior. There's just something deep inside of him that matters. There's something deep inside of him that he loves about himself, something that matters so deeply to him, something that he has to let out. Otherwise, he feels like he's going to die with a little bit of regret, die with something that should have been let out, but he didn't because, he was afraid, he was scared, he didn't know how. For me, it's just kind of like seeing this man who has been through so much, who is really fighting for one last go, one final chance to be who he is, one final chance to get into the ring, one final chance to just spar and fight, pick up some gloves and go into the ring and throw a few punches, something small, nothing too crazy. And then obviously, it blows up big time, but what I'm trying to get at here is that there's this moment where he's trying to talk to the boxing commission about getting his license renewed or getting a new license so that way he can just do a few small fights, nothing crazy. And the commission is very much like, yo, you're in your 60s. You're really old. If we let you get into that ring, we're going to be in trouble ourselves. We can't allow that. And Rocky's just, you ever have that moment where you feel something is right, but maybe you go the other way and you're kind of like, well, I should have voiced it, or I should have told somebody, or I should have said what I really wanted, but I didn't want to, ruin things or disrupt anything or mess some stuff up. And instead you kind of get like this mediocre version of what you wanted sometimes, right? That's how he feels. It's like, I can't let this feeling go. He can't let go of that. His nature, something deep inside of his soul, the beast, I think if he calls it, the animal, whatever. He's like, I can't hold on to this. I don't want to hold on to this. I want the opportunity to let it go, and I accept the consequences that come from it. And with that, I think eventually the boxing commission is like, yo, go do your thing. You know what? Absolutely, go out there. And you know what? If you're willing to accept the consequences of your actions, then we're not going to stop you. So the main thing I'm trying to get across here is that, like, him by himself, he's kind of feeling, it's so interesting to me. It's kind of, I don't know how long he's felt this way, but thinking about the conversation he had with Apollo then and the conversation he's having with the boxing commission that day to get his license or whatever, it was kind of like if he could take his own advice from back then, if he could talk to himself back and forth, but obviously with time and experience, and if anybody could understand Rocky at that point, it would be Apollo. It would definitely be Apollo. He's just like, yes, go get your license. Go do it. Go. I'll help you out. You know what I mean? I feel like he would definitely have his back on that. Whereas, I guess a younger Rocky, one who is on top, one who is still, basking in the glory of his victories, he's kind of just be like, yo, relax, sit down. But obviously over time, Rocky has come to see that he still has a little bit more left in him, which is why I think in Rocky 5, he should have kept on fighting. If he was just going to fight again anyways, later on down the road, older, should have just, gotten a few more wins and helped the family out, I guess. But that's just me. Now, there is another speech in this movie, a very powerful, you want to talk about motivation. You want to talk about from the heart. You want to talk about struggle. You want to talk about pain. You want to talk about needing somebody to give you their strength, somebody to give you wise words and wisdom and great power. There is a speech that Rocky Balboa gives his son about life. Go watch it on YouTube. Don't go watch the movie. You know what I mean? Don't take, I'm not going to repeat it word for word, but everything about Rocky 5, Mickey's speech is beautiful. That's great. That's a different kind of motivation. This one, I'm telling you right now, you will literally watch this. You could watch this at 3 a.m. and you will want to change your whole life right then and there. You will. It'll make you want to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day. It'll make you do things that you always wanted to do, or things that you never wanted to do, but it just gives you that little motivation, and then you do it, and then you're like, wow, that was super quick. That wasn't so bad. Why was I feeling like it was so much more of a burden when it wasn't? So he gives this speech to his son, and I feel like looking, we see it from his son's point of view. We see Rocky right there, and he's screaming. Well, not screaming. He's really passionate. He's yelling, and he's trying to tell his son everything that matters. And what matters most is that you be who you want to be. But you can't give up, You can't look to blame anybody else. You can't look to somebody else to as essentially, you can't look at somebody else to blame for your failures. You have to look at yourself, and you have to look at what are my victories? What can I do today? What can I do to make my life what I want it to be? You can't just sit around and hope that your life is going to be what you want it to be, or you can just do the bare minimum and glide by. You have to put in the time, the effort, the work to make things what you want it to be, to make your life what you want it to be. And so that feeling, that moment, after you listen to him talk about life, it leaves you a bit speechless. It leaves you questioning who you are and the things that you could do better. Because that's what matters the most, is that we could always be a little bit better. We could always try to be better versions of ourselves. And that's what matters. And obviously, I'm a big fan of that speech, but it's kind of You can't listen to it all the time. You know what I mean? It kind of dilutes it a bit. What you need to do is when you really feel down, when you really feel like you just can't keep going anymore, that's when you have to listen to it. That's when you have to find the courage to search on you. And when am I talking about courage? It's not courageous to look up a movie or watch a clip on YouTube, but I'm just saying that, like, that's when you have to try to find any kind of motivation for yourself, any kind of inspiration to be the best version of yourself. That's when you look it up. That's when you do it. And the last thing is Rocky Balboa's last fight. So, I mean, you want to talk about just absolutely... I mean, I'm not going to say the fight was crazy, but I will say that it's a bit funny to see Rocky Balboa fighting a young, fast and speedy boxer. You know what I mean? It just kind of seems hilarious, but I tell you, that training montage is classic. And it's full of, I mean, the guy is in his, I don't know if he's like late 50s or 60s or whatnot, but the guy is lifting weights like crazy. He's just jacked. It's crazy. It's so cool. And when I look at him exercising, when I look at him training, when I look at him running, I'm like, I can obviously do that. You know, I could get in there. I could definitely do training camp with Rocky Balboa. Who couldn't? You know what I mean? Especially when that song comes on, it just pumps you up, you know what I'm saying? But watching that last final fight is kind of just about, it has completely changed from the first movie. The first movie, it's, you know what, let's go the distance. And it was also Adrian's love. It was kind of like, he may not have won the fight, but he has Adrian's love, he has everything that he needs. And in this movie, he goes the distance, obviously, right? He makes it to the end, and he loses as well. But Adrian's not there. So what else is the victory? I think the victory, the obvious victory is that he finally got to leave it all out of the table. You know, he finally got it all out of him. He was finally able to push it as far as he wants to and walk away proud in his ability and who he is. He got to finish on a high note, I feel. Not that Rocky IV was a low point, but it was just kind of like, he won, but he also lost a lot right afterwards. You know, life beat him down into the dirt. But he got right back up. And that's what this movie is him finally ending happy that he got to put it all out there, all on the line. And it's very rare that we get those opportunities again. It's very rare we get the chance to fight later on in life. You know, another opportunity to really keep going at a later age. Because it makes it feel like everything has already gone past you. It makes you feel like everything that has ever happened or will ever happen has already passed you. It's already gone by. But the truth is that you can always keep changing. You can always keep chasing the thing that you love. I think about doctors when, you know, if you want to be a doctor so badly, but it feels like I'm too old. If I go to school now, it'll take me forever. And then, you know what I mean? But it's like, if you're passionate about it, if it's something you really want, you should do it. There's nothing to stop you. There's nobody who wants to stop you. It's all about you. You just go out there and you do it. Who cares how long it takes? Who cares if you're a 70-year-old doctor? Just get out there. As long as you're a doctor in the end, right? Because at the end of that movie, Rocky ends as a proud and happy boxer, as a proud father, as a proud friend. He has it all. He walks away from the ring with pride. And with love for himself. And that's really important as well. And so those are kind of my thoughts on watching Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa. And when you're watching it, if you don't get motivated, if you don't get inspired, then there's something really, really wrong with you. Because I'm telling you right now, all right. I won't say there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Because maybe everybody takes, kind of has different things for motivation, right? But all I'm trying to say is that there's certain points in the movie that lift you up. And if you don't feel that lift, if you don't feel that strength behind, or the emotion behind it, then I feel like you're missing out just a little bit. Just a little bit, you're missing out. But anyways, yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching on YouTube. It means so much to me, and I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you.